We live in a world where there's a lot of different options for a digital audio workstation, or a DAW, to create our music. The popular options being Logic Pro 10, Pro Tools, Ableton, Cubase, Reaper. But the problem with a lot of these is that they cost money, and for people who are just hobbyists who don't make money off of their music, it's not viable to spend so much money on a DAW, which leads a lot of them to find free options, and one of the most popular free DAWs out there is GarageBand. Now, I've used GarageBand as my main DAW for quite a while now, and I've seen a lot of things regarding the program. One of the comments I see about GarageBand is that it's not good enough to make good music on, that you can't make good music on GarageBand. And as somebody who's used GarageBand for quite some time, I want to lay these claims to rest a little bit. Alright, let's start by talking about the pros of GarageBand. First, it's designed functionally and aesthetically to look like Logic Pro 10, so that when you do transition, you're not overwhelmed by all this new stuff. Now, because of the similarities, it has a very user-friendly interface and everything is right where you think it should be between both platforms. Now, something that you also shouldn't scoff at is GarageBand's list of plugins. Even though it may not have as many stock plugins as Logic Pro 10, there's still a wide array of reverbs and delays and compressors and EQs and distortions that you can use, and they all sound great. Now that we're talking about what comes included with GarageBand, we have to mention the pages among subfolders of all of the software instruments that you have available to you from all different genres and all different types of instruments. It's not just synthesizers, there are real world instruments. There are even some world ethnic instruments included too, which is something that you don't get in a lot of DAWs. And the thing about a lot of these instruments is that they can be manipulated and have parameters changed so that they sound exactly how you want them to. Now, in addition to all the stock plugins and all the stock instruments, GarageBand also has a ton of stock guitar and bass amps. And every single one of these amps gives you a different sound and feel depending on what you're going for. In addition to the guitar and bass amps, they also have a ton of virtual pedals that you can use to vary your sound even further. Now, of course, all the functionality of GarageBand can be expanded because you can use third-party plugins and make it even better. Now let's talk about what's not so good about GarageBand. There's no mixer screen. When you have a professional DAW, most of them include a screen where you can just deal with your plugins and your EQ and your volume and your panning all on one screen. But GarageBand doesn't offer a screen like this. You're limited to the opening interface. There is a slight workaround though with the app Logic Remote. Logic Remote allows you to control GarageBand and record and play and reverse and set volume and all that stuff from your iPad. It's not a perfect solution, but it is better than what GarageBand gives you. There's a 250 track limitation, and I don't know if this is a con for a lot of people because me personally, most of my projects don't exceed 50 or 60 tracks at a time. But if you're the Jacob Collier type to have hundreds and hundreds of tracks in a single session, then you might come into an issue with this one. But I think for the average user, 250 is more than enough. Probably one of the biggest limitations of GarageBand is that there's no form of grouping or busing in it. Every track has to have its effects applied on individually, and there's no way to group them together and send them to a bus to have this one bus carry all the reverb. You have to put reverb on every single track or whatever effect you want to put on. That's probably the most annoying thing because you have to go through with all 50, 60, or 250 tracks and throw your effects on there separately. That is a big limitation. The MIDI editing is limited. You're able to quantize and do all the things like that, but more specific things like forcing a legato, say, that kind of stuff isn't included in GarageBand. But again, for a hobbyist, I don't see that kind of thing coming up often. So you may or may not notice it depending on what your style of creation is. And overall, you do have less control over your projects than, say, Logic would, just because it's a free program and not everything is included with GarageBand. Overall, there is less control that you have over your track with GarageBand. One of the biggest ones that I've run into is that if I have to have a time signature change, is that GarageBand doesn't have a feature where you can change times within the song. I've had to have entirely different projects made so I can have the second movement of a piece I'm writing be in 3/4 while the first part is in 6/8. It's limitations like that that show you that you don't have all the control you can get as, say, with Pro Tools, Logic, or Ableton. But for what you pay, which is nothing, I think there's not much to complain about, considering all the other functionality things that GarageBand has to offer you. So in the end, I'll say that GarageBand's a super capable DAW and it can handle most whatever you throw at it. Maybe not everything, but I'll say 80% of the stuff. And if you think that you can't make professional songs on GarageBand, make sure that you tell that to Rihanna, T-Pain, and Grimes, who all made top 40 hits using GarageBand. In the end, I can say that GarageBand is a super capable DAW that can handle most whatever you throw at it. But to answer the question, is GarageBand bad? No. But what you need to do is look at what you need out of a DAW and look at what GarageBand offers. And if those line up, congratulations, you can use GarageBand. But if not, then you're gonna have to look to one of these paid programs. If you wanna know why I feel so passionate about GarageBand, it's because it's been my main DAW for a long time and it really hasn't let me down much. If you're curious about what else I use, I actually started a kit, so you can look at an updated list of the equipment that I use to make my videos and make music. So check that out if you want. Now that's it for me. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe. And like and comment. The YouTube stuff. You know what to do. Alright. Catch you later.